record. There we go. All right. So this is the practicum that's finishing up our Unit 1, Section 2. And when you go on the Unit 1, Section 2 page and you scroll all the way down at the bottom, because this is essentially the last thing we're doing, okay? We can click on, it says 1/5/2021 practicum, okay? We can click on our practicum here. Once you click on this, it's going to take you to a Google slideshow that are the requirements, okay? They are the requirements of our practicum, and it's going to be the explanation of it, okay? So I'm going to give you guys a minute to all get on the slideshow, or if your Wi-Fi can't handle that connection, that's okay. Okay, I'm just going to give people a minute to log on if they need to. If not, you can always watch through the shared screen. Okay, just putting the timer on here. Okay, giving you guys that minute to log on if you need to. Yeah, no worries, Janelle. Again, I understand the Wi-Fi issue. So if you don't want to risk the Wi-Fi and try to open this on your own, that's fine. Just keep paying attention to the presentation here. Okay, we got 20 more seconds. Okay. All right, and that is time. So let's go ahead and take a look at our presentation. So we're talking about our practicum, okay? And we are going to be using the data cycle and our food habits data to do our practicum here. So if we go along, so the whole goal of the practicum is that you are going to be going through a statistical investigation using the data cycle. So what are you going to do? You are going to pose a statistical question, okay, based on your food habits campaign. And then you're going to take that statistical question and you're going to work it through the 4 stages of the data cycle. So the whole goal of the practicum is you are combining the knowledge that you've attained from Section 1 and Section 2. So Section 1 of our notes, we talked about the data cycle, we talked about statistical questions, we talked about the statistical process, right? And then Section 2, we learned how to then analyze data in our studio. So we learned how to make the graphs and the different graphics that we might want to use. We learned essentially the process of analyzing using our studio, okay, and all the different things that we can do. We learned how to group, we learned how to put in the code, we learned how to use our studio, okay. Matthew, you have a question.
For the whatever the word you just said, I don't know how to say it, but for that when we do it, so I know you said like we use like both of the things that we had just learned from Unit 1 and Unit 2, but like, are we supposed to be answering a question with the data that we have, or?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. So you are going to ask a statistical question, and then you're going to answer that statistical question using the data and analyzing. So let's keep going. Yeah. Okay. So if you remember our data cycle, right? First you ask a question, and then you consider your data. So you ask your question, you consider your data. So considering your data will be what variables are going to help me to answer the question. Like, what variables do I need to look at to help me answer my statistical question? And why do I need to, why are those the variables I should look at? And then once you decide what variables you're going to look at to answer your question, you're going to then analyze your data. So this is where RStudio comes in, right? We analyze our data in RStudio, making different graphics to take a look at with our variables, you know, making more detailed graphics by grouping so that we're able to see certain things that we want to see and certain patterns that we want to see. And then once you have analyzed your data, you then interpret your data by looking at it and answering the statistical question that you had come up with. Okay, so for example here, suppose I have a question. My statistical question is, when were the best episodes of The Simpsons created? The Simpsons has been on for a very long time, right? So when were the best episodes of The Simpsons created? Now, that's my statistical question. So now I need to consider my data. How would I know how to, or what would I need to look at to determine which episodes were the best? Okay. So first of all, the when part, right? I need to know when every episode aired. So I need the original air date. I need to know when every episode has the first time it's been shown, right? So I need that. And then I need to know maybe the rating of the episodes or how many people watched the episode the first time that it was on TV. So my variables could be the year the show was created and the year the year each episode or the date of each episode airing. A variable could be the number of viewers per episode. So how many people viewed each episode the first time that it aired? And then the episode rating. So what was the rating of that episode based on the viewers, right? So these are I asked my statistical question and I've considered my data, okay? Now, let's say I have all this data, I was able to find it online, and I want to analyze the data. So I make a graphic, okay? So here's my graphic. I have a graphic here that shows the Simpsons TV ratings by episode based on data from Wikipedia. So I took my data from Wikipedia, and now I'm taking a look at this scatter plot. If you can see, it's pretty much a scatter plot. On the bottom here, we have the original air date, okay? So we can see that the show started in the 1990s and has been continuing on. And then over here on the y-axis, I have my US viewers. So how many US viewers watched each episode on the original air date? So for example, if I take a look at this episode here, whichever episode it was, right? This one right here, this dot, that's telling me that that showed in the 1990, and there was almost 34 million people in the US that watched that episode. Okay, the first time that it was on TV. Okay, over here, this episode right here aired in like the 2005, and it looks like about, maybe 23 million people approximately watched that episode right there. Okay, when it aired in 2005. So here's my graphic, and my question here is, when were the best episodes created? So obviously, if I'm looking at the viewers, then I'm basing it off of how many people watched the episode the first time or watched the episodes for the first time. So as I'm looking at my scatter plot, I'm going to analyze it now and figure out what pattern am I noticing, right? What am I noticing in my graph here about the episodes? Did more people have more people watched it as the years have gone by? Have less people watched it as the years have gone by? Right? So if I'm basing it off of viewers, I may be looking at, okay, which episodes had the most viewers? And so those would be the best ones created, right? Based on this. So if you'll notice, we're seeing somewhat of a downward trend. Okay, so as the years have gone by, the number of viewers have lessened. Okay, they've decreased the number of viewers that watch it when an episode first premieres. okay? Now that could be due for a lot of different reasons, but as of right now, I'm just using this to answer my question. So if I wanted to answer my question here of when were the best episodes created using this graphic, so here's my analyze data section, right? So based on this graphic here, it looks like the best episodes were created in the 1990s because those episodes had the highest viewers. Okay, so then I interpret my data. So I answer my question. The best episodes of The Simpsons were in the early 90s based on the number of viewers. And that's it. I've literally gone through my entire data cycle. I asked a question, I looked at the variables, I analyzed my variables using a graphic, and then I interpreted my data and answered my question. That's the whole data cycle right there. Okay. So sometimes it might be hard to determine what variables to look at for a question. So let's try out some questions, right? But first, let's remind ourselves, what is a statistical question? What makes a question a statistical question? So if you remember, there was one very clear thing that a statistical question had to have, and that was variability. Okay. Your question, your statistical question has to anticipate variability in the question, and it has to address variability in the answer. Okay. So remember that variability is the lack of consistency or a fixed pattern. It means that you are taking in data from multiple different sources, and it's not just a single source or 5 sources. You are, so like, for example, if you remember when we were talking about variability, it's the difference between asking how much sugar do I eat versus how much sugar, what's the average amount of sugar that our school's students consume, okay, or my classmates consume. That right there, that little difference in I versus a bigger group is the difference between no variability and variability. Because if I'm just asking how much sugar do I consume, heck, I might eat a chocolate bar a day. There's really no difference in the data collected there. Versus if I ask, okay, what's the average amount of sugar that my classmates consume? I am taking data from all different types of people, people that really like sugar and people that don't really like sugar, people that might eat chocolate every day and people that might eat chocolate every other day or once a week or whatever. You're allowing for various different people to contribute to your data. And by doing that, your data will more accurately reflect the students at our school or the students in your class. Like I wouldn't be able to take the data of like how much sugar I consume and extend it out to my whole classmates. So it's like, okay, if I eat 5 grams of sugar a day, that means all teenagers eat 5 grams of sugar a day. No. But if we were to take a large enough sample, a large enough collection of data and average it out, then we can say it looks like most teenagers eat an average of 10 grams of sugar a day. Okay. And so it allows you to then apply it to the masses. So that's the whole idea of variability, right? So with this question about The Simpsons, when were the best episodes of The Simpsons created? This question is automatically a statistical question because it's in the question itself, it's prompting you to look at all of the episodes of The Simpsons from the day that it started to current, just by how the question is framed. When were the best episodes of The Simpsons created, right? Um, Instead of limiting it and saying like, what's the best episode in season 8 of The Simpsons? That's very limiting. But this also allows for much more variability in looking at your data. Okay. So statistical questions are mainly about variability. Are you allowing is your question open enough that it allows for data to be collected from multitude of people? Okay, so let's take a look at some statistical questions. Okay, so here it says which gender shows a bigger range in age, male or female Oscar winners. Okay, now this is a complex sample statistical question because it's involving two variables. Okay, it's involving two variables. What are my two variables here? What would be the two variables? Which gender shows a bigger range in age, male or female Oscar winners? What are the two variables that this question would look at?
Gender,
Gender is one of them for sure.
age,
And age. Yeah, gender and age. Okay, I hope most of us caught on to that. Okay, gender and age, because it's saying which gender shows a bigger range in age, male or female Oscar winners. Now, male or female is gender, right? So that's nothing new. And then we're looking at the range in age. Okay, now the question is, what's the main variable here? And then how are we grouping that variable? Okay, am I taking gender and grouping it by age, or am I taking age and grouping it by gender? Okay, so in this situation, it says which gender shows a bigger range in age, male or female Oscar winners. The question you want to ask yourself is, what groups am I comparing? What groups am I comparing together? Okay, am I comparing the ages together, or am I comparing male or female together? Okay, and specifically, if you read the question, it says which gender shows a bigger range, male or female. So you are comparing the gender. And what are you comparing about the gender? You're comparing their age. So our main variable here would be age, and I would group the age by gender. Okay, because I'm asking which gender shows a bigger range in age. So I'm looking at their age, the range in their age, and I'm comparing the two genders. And so if I would make like a histogram of their age, of the ages, okay? And then I would group that histogram by gender to look at the female ages and the male ages. And then I would look at the range in the ages, right? So you always want to ask yourself, what's being compared? Like what variable is being compared versus like the actual variable or data that you're looking at to compare them with, okay? Let's take a look at another one, okay? Do children, teenagers, or adults spend more money on candy? Do children, teenagers, or adults spend more money on candy? So what are we grouping here? What are our variables to begin with? Okay, do children, teenagers, or adults spend more money on candy? What are the variables here?
well, the groups are like children, teens, and adults.
Okay, so our group is children, teens, and adults. And what's the other variable?
Money,
Money, yeah. Okay, so money, and then we're comparing children, teenagers, or adults, right? So those sound like age groups to me, right? Child, teen, or adult. Those sound like age groups. So we would group based on age group. And then what we're looking at is the amount of money they spend on candy, right? So the amount of money. So I would make a graph where my main variable is the amount of money, and I would group that data based on the age group. So I could look at how much money did the children spend, how much money did teenagers spend, how much money did the adults spend. Okay. So I'm comparing the age groups, but what am I comparing about them? The amount of money that they spent on candy. Okay. Let's take a look at another one. Very good, guys. How does the median height of teenage males compare to that of females? How does the median height of teenage males compare to that of females? What are my variables here? Good, David. Okay, yes, Chris. One of them is height. Okay. Good, Maddie. Height and gender. Yes, Vicky. So those of you that are participating, I have a feeling you're gonna knock this project out of the park. Those of you that are not trying, I really need you guys to try so that you can actually get an understanding of this, okay? So yes, how does the median height of teenage males compare to that of females? So we are comparing the genders, right? We're comparing male versus female. So our gender is going to be what we group by, male versus female. What are we comparing about male versus female? We're comparing their heights. Okay, so I would make a graphic where my main variable was height, and I would group my data based on gender, male or female. So I could see male heights, female heights. Okay. Do me a favor, in the participants window, can I get a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Thumbs up is I'm understanding the statistical questions and grouping and variables. Thumbs down, I have questions. Thank you to Alex Raveles. Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, David. Thank you, Dario. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thank you, Maddie. Thank you, Natalie Munoz and Natalie Nieves. Thank you to Trinity, Tyrese, Valerie, Vicky, and William. Okay, you guys are awesome. So thumbs up, guys, if you are doing okay with the statistical questions. Thumbs down if you have questions. And if you leave it blank, then it's telling me you're not here and you're not paying attention. So that would be not good. I haven't put in participation points, but they're coming. I have them literally logged in. I just have to put them in. Thank you, Dallas. Thank you, Alexis. Are you guys not able to find the participants or the things anymore? The how to put a thumbs up and a thumbs down?
The update changed.
The update changed? Okay, look under reactions. I heard something about reactions the other day. Yeah, someone was telling me too that they updated it and then the reactions changed. Or like the placement or something changed. All right. Okay. So this is unfortunate that I don't have a response from Sarai or Samai, or Munya or Matthew, Kenya, Katie, George.
Miss, I put the thumbs up.
Was that Munya?
Yeah. It
I
just
don't.
it went away when I did.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. Okay. All right. So majority of you guys are good. If you have questions, please, you guys, if you don't want to ask it publicly, ask it privately in the chat. It's fine. That we have that like we've lost so many advantages and we've gained like the one advantage of you being able to ask a question privately. Like, so take advantage of that. I don't, if you have a question, ask it. All right, let's take a look at the next one. It says, how do the average temperatures of Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and San Francisco compare? How do the average temperatures of Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and San Francisco compare? Okay. So what are we comparing here? Right? What groups are we comparing? Okay, temperature and cities, temperatures, temps, yes, yes. Okay, yeah. Okay, the group that we're comparing is our cities, right? Los Angeles, Las Vegas, San Francisco. Our main variable that we're comparing about them is the average temperatures. So to get the average, we would need the daily temps, right? And again, you're not trying to guess these specific variables. It's understanding you need the temperatures, right? Because your variables are there for you, especially in the food habits. Your variables are already there for you. So you're not like coming up with them out of the blue. Okay. So yes, for those of you that said we're grouping by cities and we're looking at the temperatures, right? So you want to come up with a statistical question if you haven't already, that allows you to be be a little bit specific like this. Okay. So let's talk about our food habits campaign. So what you're going to do for this practicum is you are going to ask a statistical question that is using your food habits campaign data. Okay. Now your campaign data has a lot of different variables that you can look at. So if we come up with an entire list here, possible variables that you can use and consider, we have calories, we have cost, we have the name, we have the number of ingredients, we have salty versus sweet, okay? We have serving size, we have the sodium levels, we have sugar, and we have fat, okay? These are possible variables that you can use to develop a statistical question. So what you are going to do is you are going to ask a question, a statistical question. So ask questions and choose one of them to analyze, okay? Then you're going to consider the data that you are using and explain why you are using that data. Okay, you want to make sure that you highlight, and by highlight, I don't mean like actually highlight, but you can. Also, I want you to notate, right, which variables are grouped or counted. So make sure that you are telling me which variables you are grouping by. And then you're going to analyze the data to provide evidence to support your question. So you're going to create a graphic that can, you could create a bar graph, you can create a histogram, a scatter plot, a dot plot, right? You're creating a graphic. And then you're going to use that to interpret your data to answer your question. Okay. Now, so you're essentially going through the entire data cycle question. If we do for the extra credit on slide 3. Okay, give me a second, Dario. I'll get there. Good question, though. Okay, so Dario's a little ahead of us. But what you're going to do, so we're gonna leave this. We're gonna go back to our assignment here. Okay, that is not our Zoom page. Okay, so now I want you guys to go back to our Unit 1, Section 2 page, and I want you to click on the Unit 1 Practicum A, My Food Habits. I want you to click on this guy right here. This is your assignment. Now, this assignment is, I provide a template for you. And in the template, okay, in the speaker notes, at the bottom of each slide is the expectations of each slide, as well as throughout the template, there are opportunities for extra credit written in those direction areas, okay? So if you open up your template, it's going to force a copy for you. So that's your copy. And when you open it up, it's going to look just like this, okay? Your first copy will look just like this. Now, as you go through your, as you're going through your presentation here, look at the bottom here. It has directions for you for each slide. So for our first slide, it says directions for each slide are in the speaker notes. An extra credit 5 points for the best background and flow for the presentation that ties in with your statistical question that the practicum will focus on. So if your statistical question is about sugar and you make your background sugar related and has a really good flow to your presentation, you get 5 extra credit points, right? So really thought out, really planned out, and effort put in. That's what I'm looking for. So you can earn an extra 5 points there. And then as you continue here, second slide, you might look at this and it's like, okay, what do you want from me here? Look down here, directions in your own words, describe what each part of the cycle means. So in your own words, I want you to explain what each part of the cycle means. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, I hope it goes without saying that I'm looking for complete sentences, okay? And then it takes you through the actual process. So this is what Dario was asking about in the chat. He asked, before we come up with questions, if we do for the extra credit on Ask Slide 3 on the template, what it means for using my own. So let's take a look. Our directions say, ask the 3 statistical questions you came up with. Bold, so I'm gonna stop there. Ask the 3 statistical questions you came up with. Now, that indicates that you've already come up with these questions, right? That's because you have. In your homework, okay, if you look at your assignment assignment 1.6C, okay, you had to come up with statistical questions for your food habit campaign. Okay, I apparently cannot write. For your food habits campaign, you had to come up with statistical questions in 1.6C. So if you're at a loss for statistical questions, look back at what you wrote down in 1.6C as a homework assignment, because you were asked to come up with not just 3, but 4 statistical questions there. So you can use the statistical questions from 1.6C, or you can come up with brand new ones, okay? You can come up with brand new ones if you don't like the ones you came up with then. But pay attention to this, okay? It says, ask 3 statistical questions you came up with. Bold and highlight the one you will be using for your practicum. And I give you one of the questions, guys. It says, one of your questions can be, how good are we at identifying healthy and unhealthy snacks? Now, this can be one of your statistical questions. And you can even use this for your practicum, okay? No points will be taken away if you choose to use this given question for your practicum. But if you choose to use one of your own questions for the practicum, if you choose to use one of the other 2 statistical questions for your practicum that you came up with, then you will be given up to 20 points extra credit for using your own statistical question. Okay, so 20 points for using your own statistical question as extra credit. So you can use this statistical question right here. No points will be taken off, okay, for using that question, or you can use one of the other 2 that you've come up with and earn up to 20 points extra credit for doing that. Does that clarify your question, Dario? Good, okay. So once you've chosen your statistical question, you go into consider. Now this is considering your data, okay? You consider the data you are using and explain why you are using those variables. Highlight which variables are grouped or counted. The why should be connected to your statistical question. So this is like when we were looking at The Simpsons, right? Why did we choose to use the variables that we chose to use for that statistical question? So over here, you're explaining to me, why you're using those variables to help you answer your statistical question. Over here, you're essentially listing and explaining. And again, whatever explanations you give me, it should go without saying that you should be using complete sentences. Okay. Then you go into your analyze portion. So this is where you're going to be using RStudio. You'll probably be screenshotting whatever graphic you create and putting it here. So your analyze portion is you're going to analyze the data to provide evidence to support your question. So that could be bar graphs, histograms, scatter plots, dot plots. And of course, if there's two variables in your statistical question, which are the better questions, you may want to group, right, your variables. And then you're going to screenshot and paste your graph here or your graphic here. Again, another extra credit opportunity here. Extra credit will be given, 5 points will be given for the best graphics. Okay, so as of right now, you have an opportunity of earning up to 30 points extra credit so far. Okay, and then as you continue on here, okay, then you interpret, and this one is the most straightforward. You're going to interpret your data to answer your statistical question. And once you're done with that, you have 2 slides of reflection questions, 3 on one, 2 on the other, okay? So you have, what did you learn from this practicum? Did the data reflect your expectations? What is one thing about the data that met your expectations? So you're going to answer these reflection questions and make sure you read the directions at the bottom. Answer the questions in a different color that can be read against your background. All answers should be fully thought out and explained so that I know you're thinking and understanding. Okay. So this is your practicum template. Now, I want you to go back to the first slide real quick. Notice it says the data cycle and my food habits presentation created by your names here. Okay. So you have 2 choices on how you're working on this practicum. You can work independently, okay, individually, or you can pair up with someone. Okay, so you're either working independently or you are pairing up with someone. That is completely up to you, how you want to do it. Okay, if you want to pair up with someone, let me know who that someone is. If you want to work independently, you don't need to let me know anything. Then you're telling, like, by not telling me that you're working with someone, you are automatically telling me that you're working independently. Okay, so I already have one pair, Sarai and Valerie. Okay, so one last thing I want to mention here, if we go back to our assignment sheet, number 3, it says here's an example presentation that is the bare minimum and would receive a D. It'd receive a 60 out of 100. You can only work with one other person. So a pair, 2 maximum. Okay, 2 people max. Just wanted to make sure everyone understood that. Okay, so this is the bare minimum presentation. You're welcome to look through it and see essentially what the bare minimum is, what will get you a D. And this should be like a jumping off point for you. Okay, so you have access to that as well. Okay, oh, my bad, wrong slide. Oh, I can close that out. So as of right now, I want you guys to let me know your, sorry, jumping around, your presentations. What do you mean semi? 4 of what? Okay, Maddie, I have you and Katie. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create breakout rooms. Okay. Where anyone that tells me that they're pairing up, I'm going to just shoot you guys into that breakout room. Okay, so that you guys can work together. So Sarai and Valerie, you guys are going to go into that breakout room. Okay, Maddie, where are you? And Katie, you guys will go into that breakout room. Okay, Evelyn and Grisel. Okay, let me assign you guys to Evelyn and Grisel. You guys will go into that breakout room. Okay, so those of you that are paired up, I'm shooting you guys into your breakout rooms. Okay, Hun, I need you to clarify that question for me. I really don't understand it. Okay. Oh, okay, Samai. You are coming up with 3 statistical questions, but you are only choosing one to go through the process with. So you're going to give me 3 different statistical questions, but you're only going to choose one to um, go through the consider data, the graphic, and the interpret. Okay? Okay, is there anyone else that wants to work in groups? Is there someone that wants to work with someone, but they just want to be paired up, but they don't know how to contact a person, or they don't know who else would want to work on?
Okay.
Dallas, hun?
Yeah. Was The Simpsons like little example? That was just an example, right? Like when you were talking about The Simpsons on the requirements and stuff.
So don't make a copy of the requirements PowerPoint. Make a copy of the template, and then that template, once you make a copy of it, that is your presentation. To like, that's your essentially the bones of your presentation.
Oh, okay. And then so this whole project, I know you went through it, but I kept walking away. But